and welcome back to a brand new episode of Nostalgia Bit. I've done the exact same thing that I've been criticised about. I've done the exact same
Don't listen
intro.
to him. Don't let Troy get to you. Do not listen to him.
I've done the exact
Don't
same
listen
intro.
to him. Don't listen
completely.
to him. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Don't worry.
Thanks, Boo. Thanks, Boo. Welcome back to this episode of Nostalgia Bit. Today, I am joined... I did it again. I don't care. We're on a roll here. Today, I am joined, as always, by George Sheard. Big Georgie Poo. You know him, you love him. I don't know where this comes from.
You didn't think of a House of the Dragon themed
Not
intro,
a clue.
did you? No,
Nope.
that's okay.
Nope.
I'll take it.
Nope. Yep. Today, we're going to be discussing, as we have both finally fully caught up
Holy shit.
on the TV Westeros verse, or the Game of Thrones verse.
We actually have.
We actually have fully caught up. We're going to be discussing House of the Dragon Season 1 and Season 2, and also discussing... There's been some new information released this week about new TV shows, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So we're going to be discussing all of that beautiful stuff in this episode. I was literally dead ass about to say all that beautiful brand new stuff, and I was like, I'm not saying it.
Don't say anything. Don't say the words brand new ever again.
Don't say brand. Don't say new ever. It's done. But yeah, this is a chaotic start.
Fucking hell,
mate. For the first episode after the one, this is fucking chaos.
Shows you how the next year's gonna go, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Start how you mean to go
continue.
So House of the Dragon. We did a Game of Thrones episode not that long ago. Of course. We did one like early mid-January to talk about the whole of Game of Thrones because we've been watching it. We've now continued straight into House of the Dragon. I finished this a while before you actually. We finished House of the Dragon like a month ago.
Yeah, you finished
probably around the time we did about the Game of Thrones episode actually.
I think it was actually. It must have not been long afterwards.
Yeah, it was probably
I
around
finished
the
a couple
time.
of days ago, so I got the raw reactions.
You'll be able to help me whenever I forget a character's name. You'll be able to point that out because I'm trying to like piece together some things, and I'll probably definitely make a point about someone and get the name wrong, especially because so many of the fucking names are the same. Like, or
Oh my god,
Aegon, Aemond,
like looking in, like, because obviously, like, since we finished the Game of Thrones episode and we've done the Game of Thrones stuff, I've become wholeheartedly like addicted to the Game of Thrones universe.
This is what you do. This is what Cooper does. If you're not aware, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happened when The Force Awakens came out. Is he just started he didn't really he was sort of impartial to Star Wars before Force Awakens, and then after Force Awakens came out, it was about a week before you started telling me about all the lightsaber fighting techniques.
Lightsaber colors, lightsaber fighting techniques.
You hyperfixate on something when you get in, you're into like the lore and everything.
It's the same. Well, when we just did like the gaming episode right at the start, that's one of the reasons I love like Call of Duty. Is like Call of Duty Zombies was the exact same thing. Like there's so many different things where it just gets me. And Game of Thrones is one of them. Like
Game of Thrones,
sitting in the airport,
Star Wars, Sabrina Carpenter,
of course, Sabrina Carpenterverse standard. But yeah, so like. The point I was trying to make was like looking through the lore and shit. It's like this shit's so confusing, especially where it's like every single Targaryen character has the same name, like which
I like.
Have you seen the interview? Have you seen the interview of the reason why he's done it?
I haven't seen it, but I can guess because I would think that like, well, everyone's named after someone, right? Like my name. Like, my first and middle name is based off of, like, my great-granddad from my mum's side, my great-granddad from my dad's side, right? So it's like, I kind of understand that, like, in a family tree, you're going to have the same names out of respect for your, like, elders and history. Is that what the answer is?
In the interview, he was like, the rule number one of, like, writing books is you should never have a character with the same first letter. So he was like, fuck that, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give them all the same names because Game of Thrones is based on English history, like a lot of it is.
Yes, right.
And in English history, it's the history of George, Edward, Henry. Which is so true.
It is true, and you sort of need
five
that,
Williams.
Like Aegon being called Aegon makes sense because he's and they do the whole thing where it's like a second of his name or whatever, and it's like they do all that shit. Like so, it does actually make sense within history. Yes, it's harder to understand for film and TV and more so books, but I don't see a problem with it. I think it's fine, honestly.
I quite like it. I think it gives it. I mean, it makes it easier technically because it makes it easier to remember. Like, what are the kings of the Targaryen kings? Aegon, Jaehaerys, Viserys.
Pretty much. Yeah,
it's like four.
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra. Fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, we can discuss House of the Dragon. I fucking loved House of the Dragon. Like, House of the Dragon with Matt Smith being in it was one of the reasons I wanted to watch Game of Thrones.
I think that's fair enough. Let's go into that because I feel like there's been a lot of it. There was that Twitter user we talked about a long time ago on the Doctor Who episode of the podcast who got into Doctor Who, specifically Matt Smith's era of Doctor Who, because they were a massive fan of Game of Thrones and loved Matt Smith in House of the Dragon. So ended up watching Doctor Who because of that. We're the other way around. So we're the other way around. We've been fucking Doctor Who fans for many years, and then seen Matt Smith in House of the Dragon and be like, oh, we want to see that. But then it's sort of like, oh, we should probably watch Game of Thrones first. But it was independent. We didn't sit down and go, let's watch Game of Thrones now, by the way. It was just like, I'd started watching it with my girlfriend. You started watching it with your girlfriend. And then when we were about like season 3, I sort of mentioned, oh, have you seen Game of Thrones? And you were like, oh yeah, watching it now. And we're like, oh, what the fuck?
Literally completely by accident, which worked out very, very well.
Yeah, it's worked out well. But Matt Smith.
Let's talk about him. He's such a good character. Damon is such a good character. Like, and he is such a good actor. Like, it's not even funny. Like, he is so good.
He's such
menace. Prick, but I love it.
He's a fucking menace, but I love him. I love him because it's Matt Smith, and I think that it's sort of. I think it was my first experience again coming from Doctor Who. He's so wholesome in Doctor Who, and he can be intense in Doctor Who. I know his acting prowess. He's a very good actor, is Matt Smith. It's just very funny watching the first episode of House of the Dragon, and we got to the scene where
he's in a brothel.
And he's just like raw dogging some girl from behind, and I just turned to my girlfriend and went, I don't remember this episode of Doctor Who. It's just very like conflicting in my mind. Whenever I see an actor who's from Doctor Who, not in Doctor Who, and doing something horrendous, it's like, oh.
The most jarring of that for me was when he takes Rhaenyra to the brothel. That was like, was like, oh my god.
I think by that point, I'd sunk into this isn't the Doctor.
This is one of the things about House of the Dragon as well, and I've said it to loads of people who watch it and they fully agree. It's like you watch and if you actually actively think about the relationships and the family tree and stuff of House of the Dragon, it makes Game of Thrones look so tame. Like, it's unbelievable.
The Targaryens are fucked up, man. They are absolutely fucked up. I think,
like when you first find out about Jaime and Cersei, you are like, oh my god, this is mental. And then House of the Dragon, you're like, well, it's not, because
It's really,
it's like, what?
It's just incest city.
It's mental.
House of the Dragon.
It's absolutely mental.
I mean, let's focus on season 1 to start with, because there's very different tones. Now, season 2, from what I've gathered, is more controversial in terms of what people think about it. And I also think that
season 2 is very high highs, but also very low lows from what I've gathered based on reviews and stuff.
I would agree with that. Whereas season 1, I think, has been very consistently good, I thought. 100%. I think the most jarring thing for me, I think, was the time skips.
Oh my god, the time skips sometimes.
In the first half of the season, it was just, oh my god. You'd start and then it'd be like, 10 years later, what?
You have to really lock in, because it's like, which I think so, it's clever. Well, it's a good thing and it's not. It's like, you have to really lock in, because they will always, what I realize, they'll always tell you when it is. Like, they'll always give you, but it's like one line. One person will be like, oh, this was 3 years ago, and you're like, okay. Or you're like, this person's this age, and you're like, well, how old were they?
What I was very happy with is the Now TV descriptions of each episode said, like,
oh really,
what, like 6 months later, this and this happens. Clever, and I'm like, oh shit, because we'd sit down to watch it on an evening, and it would say that, and I'd be going, oh, for fuck's sake, another time jump in this one. It's like, what? It's but I liked it, and I loved the change in cast halfway through as well. I thought that was very seamless and clever.
I do miss the young actors' mind, because young Rhaenyra and young Alicent were really good.
They were excellent. They were excellent. But then no doubt, because they were so good, will appear again, and have, I believe, appeared.
They have,
since.
Rhaenyra did,
I love that, and I think that their performances were just fucking amazing. Millie Alcock, especially, I think that's how you pronounce her name, has had a pretty good career since House of the Dragon as well. Like, I think she's starring. Well, she's starring as Supergirl now.
Is she?
So I think she's in the Superman film, and she's gonna she's gonna have her own Supergirl film as like the lead.
That'll be good.
And I can see that. A lot of people were wanting her to be like a live action Gwen Stacy as well, which again I could see.
Oh my god, yeah!
But
hell
I think, there's a lot of like but without sounding like the typical internet neckbeards who are just like, let's get them in a Marvel project. I think no, the performance.
Let's get them golden handcuffs.
I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah,
I really was like enthralled by the performance there. One performance I want to note: Paddy Constantine, he played Viserys. I like Paddy Constantine anyway. I'm not too familiar with his work, but I do like his work within the Cornetto trilogy, which I'm a big fan of, and was already familiar with his comedy work.
Yeah,
he is so fucking good in this film.
Unbelievable
in this show. I think it's so like. I love the story of him as well. So unique. And my only issues, I think, with House of the Dragon were when it became almost too familiar to Game of Thrones. And I quite liked, at least with him, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was genuinely trying his fucking best and was just rotting over time.
Yeah.
I thought the prosthetic work on him and the CGI work as well, especially, very good. Seems like they did like a I'm doing a Marvel reference again. This is not intentional, but it actually does work. Yeah, I think they're doing like a Captain America First Avenger thing with him towards the end of season 1, where he's like really skinny, and it cannot be the actor you cannot be Paddy Constantine, but they're like CGI'd his like head on top of it. So again, super impressive, super realistic, really horrible to look at, and like a gnarly sort of performance, but such a presence in the show and such an important figure that I absolutely loved seeing him in this.
I think for me, one of the things with House of the Dragon in general is it's never going to be Game of Thrones. Like,
no, you
will never top Game of Thrones. However, one thing I think you could argue it actually does better than Game of Thrones is it feels like it sets up the world. Like, you get one of the things I love about House of the Dragon more than I love about Game of Thrones is the lore that you get from House of the Dragon alone. Like, season 1 alone is so much deeper. You get so much more shit from House of the Dragon. Like,
it's hyper focused on the one family and the royal family, as opposed to everyone, your Starks and your Greyjoys and whatever. And you see them, right? You see your Lannisters and stuff, especially as time goes on. You sort of see them creeping in, but I don't know. I think I like separation there.
It also does bits for the Arya killing the Night King accusations. It does wonders about having the dagger. Well, having the dagger be a thing that has the prophecy on it, and having it be a Targaryen like item that's passed down through generations. It does bits.
So it kind of makes it better, right?
Yeah. Even the Song of Ice and Fire stuff, because I completely forgot in Game of Thrones that it was a prophecy thing. Like, completely forgot.
Well, I don't know. Was it?
It's massive because Daenerys talks about loads.
Yeah, I know, but
there's a massive thing with Daenerys where it's like, it's not a prince that was promised. It can be a princess that was promised.
Yeah, but it wasn't. That's the best thing about it. Go on.
Wait, who do you think's the prince that was promised?
Jon Snow.
I thought this.
That's what I got.
Season 2 of House of Dragons completely changed because
John was the prince
that was promised. Why would Dany be the one that's shown in the vision when... Also, banger, by the way.
Yeah, we're like jumping around. That is a great bit. Basically, anytime that this, I think the thing I love about it, that the prince that was promised, or the Song of Ice and Fire, whenever that is referenced, it sort of gives so much more weight to Game of Thrones. And I really appreciate that. And I think it does what any good prequel or accompanying show should do, and it is elevate the original, and I think it does. You look at like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, which I know you've not seen. I can't believe that, by the way, but like Breaking Bad is excellent, and then Better Call Saul feels sort of like, well, why would you bother? But actually, watch Better Call Saul after Breaking Bad, and then you see Breaking Bad again. It adds so much more context and so many more layers, and it's just so much. There's so much more to it. Yeah, and I just. Yeah, I like it. That's what House of the Dragon does for Game of Thrones with those connections. It's not completely separate. It's not just giving you shit for the sake of it. It is directly tied to Game of Thrones. And
I was elated in the first season when I mentioned the Song of Ice and Fire. Like, elated.
But it's not even that. It's having Ramin Djawadi is the composer again, who is the GOAT, by the way. Especially having watched rewatching Westworld after Game of Thrones and, as the dragon, I'm like, this guy is the best.
Absolute binge fest.
But those little subtle hints when Rhaenyra's originally decided to be like the heir to the throne, and she walks into the room, and the sort of Daenerys Targaryen theme kind of plays like full blast. The opening of season 2.
I was going to mention this.
So
I was fucking out of my seat when they played Goodbye Brother for the fucking North bit.
When they just play like the Stark motif and oh my god, yeah, amazing.
Because I'd been listening to the Game of Thrones soundtrack by that point.
Yeah,
and when the moment it started, I was like,
here we go. Yeah.
Like,
and then
like,
even end of season 2, probably the most impressive bit for me, and the bit that I got locked into. Like that ending where you see all of the different clans and stuff marching, and you've got this gorgeous sweep which goes through like the Stark motif, the Lannister motif, the Targaryens, and then all of the themes from the show as well. And I'm like, that's just fucking great, Robin.
But then again, the original music for House of Dragon as well is beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's amazing. Some really gorgeous tracks. The track when Viserys is dead, and it's sort of like quiet and kind of like ringing through, and it slowly builds up, and you see that very Winds of Winter-esque with the sept blowing up and stuff, like a long drawn out scene of things happening with great music over the top of it.
They've just cooked.
Yeah, there's some great tracks in here, and I'm not going to just go and list all of them, but there are some. The music is absolutely phenomenal. All the references to sort of Game of Thrones as well work so well, not in a sense of like cameoing for no reason or throwing things in there for no reason, but actually really making actual sense.
It fully it amplifies Game of Thrones, and that's what it should do. Is it adds another level to show, because obviously Song of Ice and Fire is the thing that's mentioned. It's like, but to have it be this thing that's passed down through the generations and only the heirs to the throne and everything know about it, it just gives it another level, man. Like, it's so good.
It adds to the history of it.
So
it feels
good.
like you're adapting real history when you're doing it, and it is in a way, because it is all based on somewhat real English history, which is also fascinating. I don't know the intricate lore when you look what bits are based on, but
if you know bits of British history and you know like bits of Game of Thrones, you can put it together in some sense.
You never even think by the time Game of Thrones comes around, the idea of having like a queen would be like a bad thing. But obviously, surely, at some point in time, that probably was a thing. And it's great to see that represented in a show like this, where you go, well, that doesn't make any sense, but that is where the drama comes from. And I think,
even like Aegon the Conqueror. Like, Aegon the Conqueror is so unbelievably based on William the Conqueror. Like, it's ridiculous, but it works so well.
Yeah.
Like, which is like, it's like a major turning point in British history, and you learn about in school, like whatever, like, which is cool. I like that kind of stuff, and it makes me realize, going like, well, I get obsessed with like all this kind of stuff. Like, I love the Game of Thrones lore, but like, maybe I should just spend more time learning British history, and I'll probably like enjoy it. Like, I used to enjoy history in school, but it's like, there's probably like this kind of shit that happens, obviously minus the dragons and everything like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait till you find out there's no dragons. Shit.
I mean, but then George and the Dragon, St. George.
Yeah.
That's it.
Also, not real though.
Yeah, it's true. St. George's, but
shame all the dragons are extinct now. Damn.
I know. Rip. One day, some random girl will find 3 dragon eggs.
True. Well, we'll give birth to 3 dragon eggs.
Yeah. Literally.
Oh, man,
we have to discuss the dragons as well. My goodness.
They look amazing, by the way.
Amazing.
The CGI budget has definitely increased, because there was a point where I saw, and I can't remember the names of them. Is it Rhaegar? The fucking massive one?
Vhagar.
So close.
Vhagar.
I genuinely thought it was practical for some shots. Really? I was like, when the face, I was like, the detail in the skin and like the sort of like scowls. I just thought that it looked so real that it couldn't possibly be CGI. But it was just very, very good. So impressed with that. I just love the dynamic of the story, and I think it gets you pissed off, and I think I like that. I love that when Viserys dies, you know how he feels. You know he wants Rhaenyra on the throne, but you know that. I knew when he was speaking it, I was like, fuck.
No.
Because he's going to misinterpret it.
He's going to say his name. I was like, no, Alicent, you bitch. I was like,
she doesn't know better though, and that's the thing is, I kind of forgive Alicent in my mind, because I feel like, especially by the end of season 2, she's just like, I don't know what the fuck I've done, but this is wrong.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, especially with Aegon like running away, and Aemon's fucking unhinged. And
Aemond is so a great character because he is such a good character. Shall I tell you what else I hate and like can't wait to see die? Kristen Cole.
It's based.
What a cunt! Like I will say it, I hate that motherfucker.
God.
He was alright at the beginning, and then what just gets all fucking psychotic because the fucking heir to the throne doesn't want to run away with him. Go fuck yourself. Who do you think you are? I'm sorry.
Bastard, man. Absolute bastard.
Prick.
Yeah, I liked him at the start, and then it's like...
I wish Alicent had let him kill himself when he fucking... Honestly, should have done. That's the worst thing Alicent ever did, was fucking stop him.
Not usurp the throne, no.
Nope.
It's so, yeah. I just can't... and I'm excited because I know some stuff of where it goes. Like, I know some stuff that happens. Like,
see, I've avoided it. And I've tried to avoid...
Bro, do.
No, but that's the thing, because this is the thing, it's because it's based on stuff, and also because it's like kind of adapted, but also because it's the history of the show.
Yeah,
you can't really get too into it because like there probably exists quite a strong connection as to whether Daenerys is like from Rhaenyra's heritage or from like Aemond or Aegon. So I'm like, if you work that out, then you know who wins. Because a Targaryen sits on the throne up until the time of the Mad King. To know who was the sort of great grandparent there, you have to sort of track back to a certain point, and that certain point will be House of the Dragon. It'll tell you who's going to win the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
I don't really want to know that. I don't want to know that.
That's
even
fair.
Though it's probably out there, and it probably can be spoiled, and I probably will get it spoiled. And I probably won't care when I do get it spoiled. But it's like, I will want to keep as little... Like, I want to know as little as possible going into it. So unlike Game of Thrones, it's like you can't really know because there's nothing after it. Whereas...
I will hate my entire existence if I find out Daenerys is green. I will hate my entire existence.
I don't think she will
be.
If
she's the whole point of the Greens.
But the whole point is she won't be, though, because you're supposed to be on the red side. But then maybe that'll be the twist. I don't know. The thing is, they've got 4 seasons planned. We know they've got 4 seasons locked in and planned. That is definitely happening. Season 3 is in development now. And I look forward to that. I think that's a really good amount. If they said it was going to be like 8 seasons long, I'd be like,
I think they said 4 and it's like, we're done. Like, 4 is literally...
That's the story. Like but also they've got other stuff on the pipeline, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. Looping back around, before we get onto that, looping back around to like House of the Dragon generally. I'm trying to think like moments that I think really stuck out to me as like some of the highlights. One random one, jumping to season 2. I just thought, and I can't even remember her name, the fucking... I
know exactly who you're going to say.
Alicent's daughter.
Oh, Helena. I thought you were going to talk about.
So Helena, I was just like, I just thought she was like kind of autistic coded throughout the whole show, and it's not. But I thought that was like that, and it's not a bad thing. I thought that's a really like interesting way to take the character. It's something really interesting to do with that. It's interesting to add like that sort of level of like diversity into the show. That's such like an interesting kind of historical, almost based show. You don't usually see that sort of thing. And it made for some really interesting story choices in the show. To then find out that she's some fucking witch, and I don't want to go this far, but something to do with the fucking three-eyed raven.
I can give you a
don't.
And it's not spoilers. So she's a dragon dreamer. Okay. Which is a thing that a lot of Targaryen... It's kind of like a three-eyed raven, but it's a thing that only Targaryens get because loads of Targaryens have it. Like, Viserys has dragon dreams about having a son born with an iron crown on his head. Dany has dragon dreams about her dragon eggs and putting them in fire. That's how she knows to put them in the fire. There's loads of other ones as well in House of the Dragon and stuff.
Well, Aegon the Conqueror, presumably, as well, with the Song of Ice and Fire.
Aegon the Conqueror, Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, it's exactly the same
thing. That makes sense. But
hers is like, hers is like a weird kind of case where she can like literally.
I love that because
but then that ties all the way into like.
It pulled the rug from under me completely because I feel like I can kind of spot these things coming, and then it immediately clicked, just like. Oh, she's not, like, just characterized this way because they thought it would be an interesting decision. She's fucking Bran! She's fucking season 7, 8 Bran if he was a fucking more interesting character. That's what it was.
Which it ties into the fucking Daemon dream. They absolutely cooked with the Daemon dream, you know? Like genuinely.
Oh.
They've fucking confirmed something that's been a question in Game of Thrones lore for like the last like 10 years.
Okay.
So they confirm essentially who the Three-Eyed Raven is. So the Three-Eyed Raven that we meet in Game of Thrones is a guy called Brynden Rivers. Brynden Rivers is a member of the Knights, the King's Guard, who gets sent to the wall, becomes the Lord Commander, then goes north of the wall and gets lost and is never fucking heard of again, right?
Right, okay.
And in none of the books and in none of the TV shows he ever mentioned by name that's who the Three-Eyed Raven is, right? However, in the fucking Daemon dream, they showed Brynden Rivers how he's described in the books, if that makes sense. So he has the massive like red scar down his face.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how he's described in the books, but obviously in the adaptation of Game of Thrones, they didn't do that. So basically, they've done like this weird like fucking roundabout where they've like confirmed who the Three-Eyed Raven is. Also fucking confirms that, like, I don't know if there must be a Three-Eyed Raven at the time, but like Brynden Rivers isn't a fucking character till like another like 150 years probably in the future. Like, it's so fucking clever. Like, it's just so well done.
As soon as they started doing shit with that, I thought, right, okay, now I'm locked in, because this is super interesting. And then
the moment they started talking with what's her name, the fucking witch of Harrenhal, I was
I hated
she's
that.
Such a good character.
I hated it.
What?
I was like,
really?
This is shit. That was actually my least favorite part of season 2. Honestly, is because they took
Daemon going crazy.
In my opinion, they took too long with it. I was like, Daemon is such a good character. He would be able to spot at this point that he's definitely being tampered with. He's being fucked with, and by the witch, by the way, and he's just cracking on. And it's like, you're like delirious, my guy. Like, fucking sort it out. And obviously, it ends up being a good thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it took them fucking 10 episodes. 8 episodes to get there.
8 episodes.
I was sort of like, well, what are you just? I don't know. Have some urgency. I thought in my mind, because that was his whole season. As him just lingering around Harrenhal.
Also, R.I.P. Willem Blackwood, because I know the actor who plays him. You know Willem Blackwood, who gets executed because he like kills the Brackens.
Yes.
You know him.
Oh,
He was a really young kid in the first season. Yeah. He was like working with Daemon to try and get like the Riverlands on his side, and goes and kills like the Bracken leaders and shit. And then gets killed when they like unite them all, because it's like you didn't follow like the rules or some shit like that.
So he got executed outside.
Yeah, he gets executed.
Harrenhal.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. I know that act. Like I've worked with him before a couple of years ago, and I was like, that's fucking cool that he's in House of Dragon.
That's cool.
Shit that he dies, but
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I didn't know that part.
Because you name a random. Honestly, I feel like with Game of Thrones, you name a random character, I'll just be like, mate, I have no idea. Like, unless they're like,
this is where my obsession comes.
I know.
This is where my obsession comes into it.
Yeah,
like fucking random ass people from Game of Thrones history that I've learned. The fucking, it's just
no, I have not a clue, but I know who you mean now. And then you've described it in excruciating detail. I can remember it.
Yeah, long black. Yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm very excited for where it goes.
Yeah,
because I think it's the next season.
Me too.
We know the next season they've already announced is going to start with the Battle of the Gullet,
which is like the biggest naval battle.
Supposed to be it's supposed to be like it was described as like the bloodiest naval. It's one of the bloodiest naval battles in like Westerosi history or whatever it is.
Can't wait to see that. I think they need to sort of step that up, because there was never really. They had a lot of naval stuff in Game of Thrones, but nothing really ever. Worked that well. I think they put a lot of their budget into this battle. It's going to be great. I think for me, so talking about the sort of consistency of the series, I think season 1 was probably the best start they could have had to a prequel.
100%.
I can understand why people don't like season 2. However, it's an 8-episode season. The first 4 episodes I thought were some of the best of the entire show.
They're rated, like, some of those episodes are rated as high as, like, some of the best Game of Thrones episodes.
As they should be. But then...
which they should be.
But then episode 5 and 6 slows a bit down, and then 7 and 8, I guess, steps back up. Like, I was still interested in the story, but there was a lot of stuff I wasn't as interested in. I do think that for a lot of season 2, Rhaenyra just kind of ponces about the castle. Yeah, I don't think she's really doing much.
Step back for
and I know that's kind of the point. I know that's the point, is in the story she's not supposed to be doing much, and she's annoyed by that. But it is kind of frustrating as a viewer who wants to see her sort of start to kick off a little bit, but you can't just do that. The interesting thing about it is, right, because of that fixation, Game of Thrones is split between so many different stories. House of the Dragon has less stories going on.
Yeah,
House of the Dragon is focused on, like, literally the Targaryens, and then by extension a few extra people, and you get the Lannister guy going over to
it's more like
make allegiance with the ship people.
It's not like Game of Thrones where everyone's stories are going on at once. It's more like, obviously in House of the Dragon, everyone's stories are going on at once. Like the North will have their own stuff, but it's like you are so focused on the Targaryens that you only find out when they join the Targaryen story.
Like
the Lannister stuff, you only find out because they join the Targaryen story. But the Hightowers, you only find out because they join the Hightower. And I think it's gonna be the same with the North as well. And I know the North has some more stuff that you find out about when Cregan Stark comes in and stuff and starts fighting in the next battle. But it's like that, which it's a different approach, but I quite like it because obviously I don't really want another Game of Thrones. Like, I can't imagine it's like...
But that's what I'm saying, though, is like, this is where some things fall apart, is you've got... you're used to that. So then when you spend... So if Rhaenyra's arc in Season 2, for example, was in a Game of Thrones season, it would be fine. Because you wouldn't actually get as much of it. You'd just sort of see bits of it. You'd still see she was at the castle. She's still lingering around, she's doing her thing. But you wouldn't get as much of it because it was more kind of widely focused on other characters.
Similar to Daenerys at the start, where Daenerys, if you think, first 2 seasons, doesn't really have that much going on and probably isn't in it that much.
I don't know, though. I kind of feel like joining the Dothraki and then like Khal Drogo dying and her brother getting killed and her giving birth to the 3 dragons in one season is kind of like a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And then maybe Season 2, I guess, probably slows down
but then
a bit,
imagine
but I
having
think
that,
a lot does happen.
But then imagine having that as an entire like 8-episode season, and those be the 3 like main points that you hit through those entire 8 episodes. That's the kind of thing that I'm getting on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I'd say Rhaenyra has less to do than that. I still think a lot of it she's taking a back seat. Like, she's kind of doing what she should to keep herself safe. But there's I mean, like, if, off the top of your head, how many scenes are her standing around a table saying, I want to fight in this, and then all of the people going, no, we can't lose you, that's to it. But there's, like, so many of those scenes where that exact conversation happens that it kind of feels like, okay, I get this. It's in there. Like, let's do something else. Like, and I like the stuff where they're bringing on the other like dragon riders.
I love.
Oh, that dickhead better die so quickly, though. I hate him as well. I liked him at first, but he's a fucking asshole.
He's the one that I don't know his name. I know the other 2, and I don't know his name.
That tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Because I know Hugh and I know Adam, but I don't know that guy's name.
I think that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But also he's just like. He's also played by a comedian, not like a.
That doesn't surprise me.
Which is not to slag off it by going not a proper actor, but like in terms of everything that I've seen this guy in, it's all comedy.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find the name of the guy.
It's not a diss, but it's interesting. It's just like from a character perspective, I don't expect him to be in the show too long. Just because he's probably supposed to be a bit more comic reliefy, I guess.
Yeah. I cannot.
Yeah, don't bother looking into it now. It's just
fucking dragon does he ride? I can't even fucking tell you which dragon he rides. Never mind.
Yeah,
I don't care.
But I like the idea.
Yeah, I love that idea of taking the bastards and have them ride dragons. Like Hugh riding Vermithor is such a goated move.
Also, just again leans into like the Jon Snow thing. You get more context as to why these things are happening in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
When you see it happen before here as well, it's like, oh, no bastard has ever ridden a dragon before. Well, they will be by the time we get to thing. But then maybe at that point, Daenerys should have been like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah, that is true.
Because I feel like, also, I mean, she should have been like that anyway. I don't know why in Game of Thrones Daenerys wasn't like, how the fuck can you write my dragon?
But then you also have to think about with Game of Thrones is Daenerys doesn't have anyone to teach her that. Dany doesn't know.
True.
That
because the dragons have been extinct, haven't they?
Yeah, and she has no brother to tell her. Rhaegar's dead. Viserys is dead. Like, she has no action. Like, there is literally no one to tell unless she goes fucking reading the books, which she doesn't in the show, and they don't exist because they're all fucking gate kept by the Lannisters. And that's one of the things that when you look into stuff, especially comparing it to House of the Dragon, is a lot of Daenerys' stuff. Is like her and Rhaenyra's stories are very similar, but the difference is Rhaenyra has her family around her to teach her these things, and she knows these things, whereas Dany doesn't. Dany has no idea that. Yeah. She has no idea that a bastard's never ridden.
Yeah,
this,
true.
All that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
True.
I mean, yeah, it is a red flag that Jon was able to tame Drogo, was
so easily.
Yeah. But still, but then she fancied him, so.
she turns a blind eye.
Yeah.
Like if I could more actively remember the lyrics of Bad Reviews, I would have been making a joke there, but I can't think of them. But there is a line about red flags looking like green flags.
If I squint, I can your red flags turn blue.
That. Look at him, he's
right
already. Yeah, it is. Yeah, see, clearly I've been listening to Busy Woman in 15 minutes more. Fair enough. How many Sabrina Carpenter references can we get into a House of the Dragon episode? Too many.
True.
Yeah, I think there's some great moments, and I think again, but the consistency of season 2 is really interesting. I don't think it was bad, and I think what people are forgetting is people are going into it going like, "Oh, I want everything to happen." It's like, yes, but I think if Game of Thrones was coming out now, seasons 1 to 3, people will be like, "Oh, get on with it." Oh, I'm so because now we have this fucking TikTok mentality where people just have no attention span.
Yeah,
and even across 8 episodes, they're like, "Oh, come on." And like, yeah, I think there's some criticisms that are valid, but I think,
with it being an 8-episode season as well, like if they'd had that extra episode, those extra 2 episodes, like a Game of Thrones season, we would have got like the war at the end. And I understand people being annoyed that you spent 4 episodes to then be like, "Oh, the war's not going to happen." But if you know, because surely you must know that the season's going to be 8 episodes before it airs.
On that as well, fuck HBO. Just FYI, not only because you cancelled Westworld, you cunts, but because you take a show that's good and you go, "Oh, how can we save money? Oh, you're only getting 8 episodes this year." Fucking joke. They did the same thing with Game of Thrones. They did the same thing with House of the Dragon. They cancelled Westworld. Don't know if I mentioned that.
On Nostalgia Bait do you get Sabrina Carpenter, Game of Thrones, and Westworld all mentioned in the span of like 2 minutes.
It is very much like an entire, like, you can sort of map out my personality.
We're trying to hit the plot, the points, yeah.
There it is, mentioned anyway, there we go.
Must be, I've already mentioned it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, I think I'm very interested as to what they do next, and I think I have the patience there, and I understand people are very impatient, and it's like, it reminds me of, again, similar to Doctor Who, being in, like, very into that community, that people get very wound up when they don't have the answers straight away. I remember when, this is very niche to Doctor Who, so sorry about that for those who aren't big fans of that. You probably are, knowing the audience of this podcast. But the series of 12, when they did the Fugitive Doctor stuff, everyone was going, "Wow, didn't make any sense. Oh, they didn't answer any questions. They didn't give us any context." And obviously, now we know they didn't. Sure. And that was a choice. But like at the time, it was like we still had a couple of like Jodie seasons left. It was like, well, they might answer it. Like, you can't demand answers straight away. Like, when River Song was first a character in Doctor Who, like, if it aired, like, more nowadays, people would be going, "Well, that didn't make any sense. Oh, it was a pointless character. Didn't get all the answers I wanted." It's like, sometimes answers take a while, and sometimes you take 3 or 4 seasons to get there, and that makes it more satisfying, because you're following along, and you're intrigued, and you're engaged. If they just give you all the answers as soon as you meet any character, you get a whole backlog, and what's the fucking point? And I think it's the same with House of the Dragon.
No
people watch this now, and they're going, "Well, oh, that was it. Oh, they didn't really do much this season." It's like, yeah, because there's 4 seasons of the whole story, and they're working on bringing you it 1 season at a time. Everything will be answered, and everything will be satisfying by the end of season 4. They're not going to drag it out, and they're not going to, like, cut it short. Like, House of the Dragon isn't cancelled. So if season 2 doesn't give you all the answers you want, then yeah, exactly.
They've confirmed that the next season is going to be 8 episodes, which thank God when they're not reducing the episode count again. But there's been like interviews and stuff, and I kind of understand, like, they were talking about putting like the start of the war on the end of this season, which would have been cool, don't get me wrong, amazing season finale. But at the same time, it's like, they were talking about, like, we wanted to push it back because we want to build a lot more of the sets and build a lot bigger stuff. And I think instead of trying to tag it on the end of something, I would rather them take the extra time to build these entire war sets, to build all the boats.
But I kind of felt that they were doing that anyway. We kind of got the implication that everyone was going to war. We got all the marchings of the different clans and the families and all that sort of thing. We got all of that. We got Alicent sort of doing her thing and kind of fucking off. We got Aegon disappearing.
Lannisters and Greyjoys and Starks.
So we're assuming that season 3 is going to start with Aemond assuming the throne then.
I assume so.
Because if Aegon fucks off, then if
Aegon's fucked off, then yeah, most likely. Which base as fuck. But then again, I don't think Aemond survives next season.
Absolutely
Buck 50. I don't think Vhagar does either, to be honest.
I think Vhagar's got to be on his way out, surely. Fucking
Vhagar 100% is on his way out. He has to be. Or she has to be. I don't know. Might be a she.
I think it is, actually.
I think it is, yeah.
I think it is.
I had this conversation with my girlfriend of like, it's so confusing, the fucking dragon and gender stuff.
There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, it's literally the only way you know is if they refer to it as he or she in the show.
Weird sort of side note. What do you think of Daemon's fucking goofy dragon?
Sorry, Caraxes is fucking sick.
What his fucking long ass neck and fucking flying squirrel tail? What the fuck is that shit?
Sick.
It's so weird. I mean,
cool.
I wouldn't want to try that one. I'd be like, no, fuck
That's
that.
fucking cool. That's cool. I love it. It's the same as Sheep Stealer, the one from the end of the one in the Vale with the really curled wings.
Yeah. Oh,
that one looks fucking sick.
As much. Yeah, I get making it a bit sick. I was a bit like, I don't know. The gliding with that is kind of giving like Spider-Man, and I'm not really fucking. But like with a really long neck as well. I'm just like,
I do like that most of the dragons, like all the dragons, have their own design.
Unique
like there's so many unique qualities and stuff, and
I like that because I didn't feel like I got that with Game of Thrones, to be honest.
What, because Rhaegar or Rhaegar?
I felt like all three of the dragons felt so similar that throughout watching, despite the fact that we were binging it, I couldn't really work out the differences between the dragons.
The colour's literally the only thing that you can tell the difference.
Yeah, that's it. But I couldn't name which. Yeah, I still can't name dragons. I have no idea.
Drogon, I think it's like Raelgar and Viserion or something like that. I can't fucking remember. Drogon's the only one I remember because it's the fucking main one.
Yeah. Fuck knows. Yeah. So talking about other shows that are on the horizon for Game of Thrones and stuff that we probably will talk about when it comes out. Night of the Seven Kingdoms is next, which I feel like I've got a lot of context on now. Just given where that takes place and what it's about. And I'm so excited for that. I can't wait for that shit because that sounds great.
I'm very, very, very excited for Night of the Seven Kingdoms for multiple reasons. So they've already confirmed that it's looking like it's going to be 3 seasons. They've said
what? Really? So I thought it was like a one-off. Oh, that's almost.
So the book,
you know, almost disappointed with that information. I almost kind of was looking forward to it being like a small thing.
So the book that it's based on is called Night of the Seven Kingdoms, shock horror. Yeah. But it's 3 independent stories set over like a year between these characters, Duncan and Egg, which are like the main 2 characters. It's set 100 years before Game of Thrones. Actually, I think it's 100 years after House of the Dragon, but it's like
about 100 years before Game of Thrones as well. It's like right in between.
It might be closer to Game of Thrones than you think.
Okay.
So, and this is why I think it's interesting because doing the Night of the Seven Kingdoms stuff is interesting because
it is
Dunk.
It is
introducing closer. Dunk as a character allows you to do some story, especially if they decide to do more stories, because there's Night of the Seven Kingdoms, then there's a book called like The Hedge Knight, and there's something else as well, which are all and George R. R. Martin said that once he does Winds of Winter, he's going to do more books with this character. And basically we know that Sir Dunk the Tall is actually like he joins the King's Guard, and his like final battles cross over with some characters from Game of Thrones. So you know Barristan Selmy, the fucking Barristan the Bold, who's the fucking King's Lord Commander of the King's Guard in the original Game of Thrones. So he's like the battle that he like makes a name for himself is a battle that's with Dunk, this fucking character from Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So it's like doing this stuff is going to potentially allow us to bleed closer and closer to Game of Thrones and do stuff like maybe like 40 years somewhere in between that before Game of Thrones, which is
so mental. Around the time of the Mad King then?
Yes, it will 100% be Mad King. It's Blackfire Rebellion 4, so it will probably be like Aerys and...
So the thing I read, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the connection is here, you'll probably know because you've become like a fucking three-eyed raven since I last spoke to you about Game of Thrones. Raven. The Egg is a Targaryen.
Yeah, it's Aegon.
And is related to the old fucking maester from the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones.
Maester Aemond, yeah.
Maester Aemond. Who,
yes, I think so.
Because he talks about Egg.
Yes, yeah. So it's
got to be some time before Game of Thrones, but not too much time.
Yeah, because obviously Aemond and and again it's like we're starting to see that period where because Aemond's like I'm sure in Game of Thrones Aemond's confirmed to be like 100 years old or something like that. Like
he's old.
He's, like it's crazy. But then there's a weird thing with Aemond where at the same time I'm pretty sure there's another Aemond, which again this is the fucking going into this like weird name shit. But like, yeah, so eggs and Aegon, but I don't know. And again, this is where you have to start looking at fucking family trees, and like, it's fucking so confusing. Fucking because bro, House of the Dragon. The fact that Aegon is Aegon 2 in House of the Dragon, when he was going to be king, I was literally telling my girlfriend, I was like, it's probably going to be like Aegon 3, Aegon 4, Aegon 2. I was like, how the fuck have we done this? Like, like it's yeah. So the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is quite a good like branching point, because a lot of the stories you can start to bleed into Game of Thrones, and it's disconnected way. It's not going to be fucking Targaryens and Song of Ice and Fire. It probably will eventually, because Dunk the Tall joins the Kingsguard and becomes Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and stuff. But again, that's like later down the line. And
be interested to see, because then at that point, so that's really interesting, because I thought it was earlier in the timeline. So at that point, you'd probably be able to assume that actually, if it is close enough to Game of Thrones, we're going to get to a point where he's Kingsguard for the Mad King towards the end of the Mad King's tenure, which could potentially lead into a story that they want to tell on screen, which is that Robert Baratheon's sort of rebellion against the crown. And prime Robert Baratheon, which I think there's a big audience for. People want to see that.
What fucking hell there is.
People want to see that. And I can get that. I get behind that. Yeah. I think the only risk that I would say with that is your recastings. Now, I know they did like a young Ned Stark recasting in Game of Thrones, and that was all well and good, but you try and recast X amount of iconic characters, because in that time frame, because it's close enough to Game of Thrones but not super close, you're probably thinking about 20 years or something maybe. I don't know how long Robert Baratheon was king before he died, but it was a while.
It's that long.
It was a while, because he was young and like
16 because
when he won the crown.
It's because it's when Jon was born, because it's 15 or 16 because Jon and Rob were born when Ned went to war. Bro, I'm fucking goated here.
That's true.
This is from reading the books.
That's true then,
because Rob and Jon are supposed to be 15.
Okay, so that in that sense, it's like if we see that rebellion, right?
Yeah.
Then you're not gonna have. I mean, casting a new Robert Baratheon, that's probably relatively easy because he's implied to be a lot younger and fitter and healthier when he did that. However, casting yet another young Ned Stark is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Casting a young Jaime Lannister, casting a young Cersei Lannister, casting a young Tyrion, casting a young Tywin, casting a young basically every character in Game of Thrones.
Tywin, you definitely have to do.
Gonna be hard.
Jaime, you definitely have to do. I think Cersei and Tyrion, you could probably get away with not. You could probably kind of, if you're gonna do mainly like the battle stuff, you could probably get around it a little bit because they're so young. Ned, Robert, you definitely have to do.
Yeah.
Arthur Dane, you'll fucking 100% have to do. Yeah. Who's the one that Ned kills in the flashbacks? Like Barristan Selmy, you will 1000% have to do because he's Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Yeah, it's like there's so many. I think maybe Dunk might be dead at that point. I'm not too sure, but yeah, like that kind of stuff. Rhaegar, you'll have to recast. Dany's brother, who has the affair, who falls in love with Thingy's sister, with Ned's sister.
Yeah, but I don't think that's
because he dies. It is because he dies at the Battle of the Trident, which is the big one.
Yeah, no, but like that's not as a big one because it's like, what is his involvement in Game of Thrones? Bar like one flashback.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fine. Yeah. I'm thinking more where there's like an established thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
Imagine trying to recast like Jon Snow. Not that they will, but like it's going to be hard. It's hard to recast Ned as it is, but like to recast Tywin. Like a slightly younger, but not too much younger, like Charles
like 15 years is a weird one as well.
That's the thing. It's like they have to be the same, really. Yeah. They can't be that different. This is the problem that you get into with like the X-Men films, right? Where the sort of like prequel X-Men cast, by the time they get to the end of their timeline, is only about 5 years before the original X-Men film. So then actually you're sort of like, in 5 years, quite a young face, Michael Fassbender, becomes... Fucking hell, what's his name? Ian McKellen. And it's like, that is impossible in 5 years. So it's like, that's the danger you have where, okay, 15 years, but you still, like Robert Baratheon, fair enough. Ned, fair enough. They're all at the right age. Tywin would just have to look like a sort of mid-30s, 40s Charles Dance.
Yeah.
How many other characters do you recast? And do you do a good job of it? It's hard. I think it's really hard to do.
Even like more the Northmen, you'd probably have to like. There's quite a lot of the Northmen that you'll have to recast.
Yeah. Which is not too bad because again, you could see it's only when it comes into like main characters, and I think it's hard to think about the problem they've had with like the Solo film, the Star Wars story. It's not even that bad, but the biggest thing around it was the casting of Han Solo. It's a hard one to get right.
It's a hard.
No one really gives a shit about young casting of other people, but it is hard when it's like 15 years. It's hard.
Because even like oh my god, what they're called. The ones who are on the Trident, who have River Run, the one that Arya kills, like you'd probably have to do stuff with them, like
it would restrict them too much, and that's my thing. I'd love to see that era. I would kill to see that era.
Yeah,
because it's talked about so much. I'd love to see
Robert swinging that great hammer with his fucking antler helm would be so good.
Would you see that? And then would you see Stannis? Would you see Renly?
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah, you
probably would see. Yeah. They're probably around the age.
Yeah,
that you'd see.
You would.
So you'd have to then recast them.
Stannis, you definitely would. 100%, you must. You have to.
And then
there's probably more that we're
the Onion Knight. So Davos, probably.
Yes,
he was close with Stannis, maybe. Stannis, maybe.
There's so many characters that you'd have to
There's so many characters you'd have to sort of recast. That's when it becomes difficult to do because recasting restricts you. Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, there's certain characters you just couldn't do.
I'd love to see though.
But I'd love to see them do it.
Knights of Kingdoms, I think, will be good. It's supposed to be like a smaller crew, smaller cast. So
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for
the
because it's all about one guy, isn't it? I'm almost expecting like a sort of Last of Us kind of thing where it's like,
I think it's supposed to be. Yeah, I think it's very much going to be like that.
Yeah, Last of Us meets like basically what the Hound and Arya story was like
basically
for most of Game of Thrones.
It opens where it's like Dunk meets Egg, and Egg's like, take me with you, and he's like, I'm going to compete in a tournament. He's like, okay, come be my squire, and then they just kind of like kick it for like for like a year, and then I don't know what happens after that. So
I think it's supposed to be quite like wholesome, so I'm excited to see what they can kind of do with that and make it look like nice, because I think it's like I got the impression that Dunk is supposed to be like quite a nice guy. He's not like he's not like the Hound, right? He's like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Sir Dunk. I think he's Sir Dunk the Tall. I'm sure that's his nickname.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I'm sure he got knighted on like a complete fucking whim that like he wasn't even supposed to be a knight or something. There's something to do with that. Yeah, something weird. The other announcement, if you want to talk about it, which I'm interested to see what your theories are, is the new Targaryen high budget TV show that they've been talking about. So saying that it's supposed to be they described Knights of Kingdoms as an intimate project, and saying it's like a lower budget project, not in like a bad way, but it's like smaller stories and like it's all like in one location and stuff. But they're describing this next one as a very big budget compared to the other ones. So and obviously it's Targaryen, so to me very big budget screams dragon straight away. Do you not think?
I mean, So there's a few different elements, right? So to cross-reference this with already stuff that's been like discussed, about a year ago, Entertainment Weekly published an article basically discussing all of the projects that were in development and in the works, because they've all been announced and all been discussed. So House of the Dragon, of course, season 3 is in development now; it's in pre-production. Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I believe, is finished filming and is in post-production now.
It's done, I think. I think it's close to being done.
Yeah, because it's going to come out at end of this year, I think.
It's end of this year. And George R. R. Martin was like, I've seen
it. No, it's not. It's coming out in like June.
Yeah.
It's like summer. Yeah.
George R. R. Martin said that he's watched all 6 episodes. That he said the first like 2 or 3 are complete. The last 3 were like cuts and stuff. And he said they look really good, all this stuff. But then they're also talking about shooting season 2 and 3 back to back. So which the first
season will adapt the first novella in The Hedge Knight, which will consist of 6 episodes. It said this will be 90 years before Game of Thrones.
There you go. So
the first season will be 90 seasons. So I wonder what the other ones will be. Then, what was confirmed last year as in development is 3 different projects, right? So that's what I think it will be, one of these 3. So in April 2023, it was reported that a series about Aegon Targaryen, the Conqueror, was in early development. But
this is what I think is Aegon's Conquest. I think this is the one that they teased about the very big budget.
Yeah, so apparently Mattson Tomlin, who's working on the Batman Part 2 as a screenwriter, was confirmed that he was attached to the the project, which means it is in development. However, who knows how far in development it could be that it could be something completely different. I think that would be a great. That could be a great show because obviously we hear a lot about the Aegon's Conquest. I'd love to see the Iron Throne at like this giant, grandiose level because I feel like we've seen it a little bit more in House of the Dragon, but like
just the dragons alone, like doing Balerion, Vhagar, and whatever the other one's called, I can't remember.
Yeah,
like the Balerion is gonna fucking be a fortune. The fucking size of it.
Oh yeah,
like it's supposed to be even bigger than Vhagar, which is like mental.
Yeah,
and even like there's just it's massive. Man.
I think they could do stuff.
Aegon's Conquest. It's
they could do stuff
huge.
With that.
Because the thing with Aegon's Conquest as well is it's everywhere. Like we are going to see every corner of Westeros if they do Aegon's Conquest.
And also we get more of those like Song of Ice and Fire visions, which would just be really cool. And I think it almost helps it connect to Game of Thrones and sell it as a story that they should make. So yes. The other one that's in development is a Sea Snake spin-off. Which I believe, let's have a gander at this.
With the Valerian, with Corlys.
I don't know 100%. Let me have a look. So, I'm trying to read this as I'm going along. It's basically basically like a younger Corlys. So the past adventures of the Sea Snake talked about. It was basically being talked about being developed into a spin-off called 9 Voyages in March 2021. Cool. Was later changed to the working title of The Sea Snake. So, because I guess they didn't want to have a number in the title, I think was the implication. They didn't want to have Night of the Seven Kingdoms, 9 Voyages.
And then 9 Voyages.
And then other stuff. And then there's another one, which of course I'm going to talk about in a minute, called 10,000 Ships. So I'm going to get onto that one, which is what it could also be. So... This one is just seemingly talked about as like a sort of throwback, kind of like in the past show. I don't think it will be this. The reason I don't think it will be this is because there have now since been talks about this now being an animated series and not a live-action series.
Okay.
So that's my only thought, is if you're talking about a big high-budget HBO Game of Thrones spin-off that isn't House of the Dragon or Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I feel like it's likely to be not this, because this is looking like it's going to be animated. And the final one is a one called 10,000 Ships, which is set about 1,000 years before Game of Thrones, and follows Princess Nymeria, maybe, an ancestor of House Martell who founded Dawn. Known as a true warrior, she was such an iconic figure in the world of Thrones that 2 characters from the original series were named after her. One of the Sand Snakes, played by Jessica Henwick, and Arya Stark's direwolf.
Nymeria.
Checks out.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes, I do know who it is.
So the working title, 10,000 Ships, refers to the number of boats accompanying Nymeria when her army travelled from Essos to Dawn. She later ordered all of the ships to be burned so that turning back was not an option. It was confirmed in 2022 that it was being written, and there had been a couple of drafts delivered, but it's sort of changed since. And it was sort of mentioned in 2024 that it may have been scrapped, so who knows? But apparently it's been picked up again. But yeah. Apparently the show concept was really good, but has kind of been put on pause for now. And there's obviously a bunch of other stuff as well. We talk about like a bunch of shit. Like Robert's Rebellion has been talked about time and time again, obviously. Flea Bottom spin-off, Blood Moon, whatever the fuck that is. Golden Empire, the Jon Snow spin-off has been shelved permanently. So I think breaking that down in terms of
it's a Targaryen story,
so
it's got to be... To me, when I first heard this, I didn't know any of that, by the way.
Yeah.
When I first heard it. So, to me, it's either going to be Aegon's Conquest of the Blackfire Rebellions, which the Blackfire Rebellions are like 60 years before Game of a it's like a Targaryen king dies, on his deathbed names a bastard son of his the next heir to the throne. He then gets completely shot out, takes the surname Blackfire, and then causes fucking rebellions over like 40 years. And that includes, the fights include Dunk the Tall, Sir Barristan, all that kind of shit. That was the other one because it's quite big budget. Obviously, well, there's no dragons. It's past the dragon time. But, like, the fucking skill of battles is fucking mental. Like, however, it's gonna fucking be Aegon's Conquest. It has to be.
Based on that, I would agree. I think the Sea Snake 9 Voyages is going to be...
It's a Targaryen story,
animated.
Though. They've confirmed.
No, that's what I'm saying, but that's going to be animated.
Yeah.
10,000 Ships is kind of maybe vaguely connected to Targaryens, but not really. And then you've got Aegon's Conquest, which is... Well, she founds House Martell. I don't know. I'm trying to just quickly look up there where she comes from, because I thought it was a Targaryen thing, maybe, but maybe not. Aegon's Conquest, I think, is probably the most likely. And also the one that's probably sought after the most, because then you could have two shows running that tie into each other at the same time. I imagine Aegon's Conquest comes to fruition towards the end of House of the Dragon Season 4. You can tie in a lot of stuff with Aegon's dream. We could even have a casting of Aegon the Conqueror appear in House of the Dragon, maybe. You could have a lot of crossover there, which could be just very fucking entertaining. So based on this is an article from about a year ago. This is basically an article from about a year ago, which is a great article which gives you all the new information about all these projects. Now, the one for me that I think stands out the most out of these three that are sort of in development, that haven't 100% been shelved or whatever, but are still being worked on in the background, but not officially picked up, I think Aegon's Conquest stands the most ready to be done, and probably the most, given the connections to Game of Thrones, given the connections to House of the Dragon, makes the most sense. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a great adaptation, which will be really exciting to see, but it's not directly connected to any of the big royal families, right? You need to set up something to carry on after House of the Dragon finishes. Aegon's Conquest is the one, I think.
Aegon's Conquest also has source material, which again gives it more. Fire and Blood is the same thing that House of the Dragon's adapted from, is the source material for the entire Targaryen history. So it's quite easy to pick out. And if they're going to do I imagine they'll pick it out source material. I'm not aware if the other ones have source material, but to me, this is the thing. Ages ago, when Game of Thrones ended, they were talking about doing spin-off shows for all the houses, or how all the houses were established, how Stark was established, how all the bastard names were established, how all of them, which kind of House of the Dragon and Aegon's is kind of what what we're getting at the moment. The only other thing it could possibly be is the Doom of Valyria, which I think if they do Aegon's Conquest, it would probably have that anyway.
My only other thought, and I'll just adding on here to the 10,000 ships one. George R. R. Martin said apparently in June 2024 that the pilot is being written for 10,000 ships, and has jokingly said, we're all very excited about it, though we're still trying to work out how we're going to pay for 10,000 ships, 300 dragons, and giant turtles. So take that how you will, but given the announcement there's going to be a big budget show in the Game of Thrones universe, I feel like that could probably lean towards that as well.
What? 300 dragons, giant turtles,
10,000 ships.
Fucking what the fuck? This bitch was stacked. What?
So yeah, there's a promising future for the future of Game of Thrones. And if you are a Game of Thrones House of the Dragon kind of fan, or you're just joining, or you're just brand new to the franchise like us, then we will be venturing into these things. When
I do love, there's just so many stories you can tell.
When Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out, we'll probably be talking about it. When there's massive, maybe revealing news that we have enough content to talk about, or a trailer or something like that, we'll absolutely be coming back and talking about it. We occasionally do our sort of Star Wars project sort of talks and just sort of chat about the future of these franchises, and I think Game of Thrones is one of those to add to the roster where it's there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. They're really franchising the fuck out of it, so it'll be good to talk about and see what the future holds.
I'll dip in and out every once in a while and talk about the books, and because I've been reading the
you're the book guy.
My fancy
there it is.
Game of Thrones
sure,
there it is.
Go on, there we go.
And a lot of things that it's mental when we did the Game of Thrones episode, all my biggest gripes within the first half of the first book, I was like, I'm done. This is fixed.
Yeah.
A mention of a Stark going missing west of Westeros. I was like, this is the great shit ever. I was like, this is peak. Bran, all the fucking extra Bran shit was it's just the best.
It's good, isn't it though? Because when you say the stuff about the west of Westeros and shit, that's so interesting because doesn't that just give a lot more weight to when they're writing the show? Having that involvement from George R. R. Martin, does that not give you more faith in that the finale pretty much is what George R. R. Martin would have wanted the show to
exactly.
end at?
Yeah.
And I think in terms of you're going off, okay, maybe they didn't mention that from the book, and maybe they didn't put that into the show at the beginning of the show. That's fine.
But to know that it is there,
I think
to know that for me to know that it's there and
there before the show was even
point.
Conceived, and it was in the book, and it was there. That was in the history of the Starks,
and it's directly related to Arya's story. Like it's directly related to Arya's bloodline. Like it's
and
just
also
perfect.
that whole thing of her not belonging and everything. I think that lines up perfectly, and I thought it did from the show anyway. But hearing that makes it more solidified.
Yeah.
Anyway, I reckon we're ready for Just News, Cooper. I'm on the edge of my fucking seat.
News. I've got like fucking House of the Dragon shit open everywhere. Cool. From Sky News this week, punch my great stars.
The news sources are available.
Fraud suspect 61 used wigs and disguises to take citizenship tests for others, Home Office says.
Oh, fuck me. This is going to be one of those ones, isn't it? You know, when you hear a story like this, you're just like, for fuck's sake, it's going to be something fucking goofy.
A woman in her 60s has been arrested for allegedly using an array of wigs and other disguises to pose as at least 14 other people to help them pass UK citizenship tests.
What?
The 61-year-old woman, who has not been named, helped men and women gain an unfair advantage in the UK test, in the Home Office says. She's accused of wearing wigs and disguises to pass herself off as the true applicant in an attempt to dishonestly obtain them to remain, basically to give them UK citizenship and remain in the UK.
Sake.
Anyone seeking to stay in the country indefinitely or is as a British citizen must take the test. She was arrested at an address in Enfield, North London, on Monday, where several false documents. Several false documents and an array of wigs alleged to have been used in a fraudulent scheme.
Do you wear wigs?
Do you wear wigs? Will you wear wigs? It's alleged that between June 2022 and August the following year, the woman went to multiple UK test centres, disguising herself and doctoring ID documents to evade detection. Fraudsters completing the test for others could lead to people wrongly being granted the right to remain in the country without the proper due diligence, the Home Office said. And it shows loads of different photos in the argument.
Yeah, there's
her,
so many photos
wigs.
with the face blurred. But it shows you all the wigs. Very clever. Very clever little plan
Immigration.
There. I want to know how much money she was making off this. What she did. What's she getting out of it?
What's her thing? Immigration Enforcement Criminal Financial Investigation Inspector Philip Parr said a complex investigation had put a stop to the dangerous scheme. This individual is believed to have had orchestrated a premeditated plan to avoid detection, meticulously selecting disguises and test center locations across the country to evade the authorities. As with many criminals who commit this type of crime, we believe her motive was financial gain. Of course it was.
Of course it was.
And then it says the test it consists of like 24 questions you have to answer. So basically, people were going to her and being like, I need you to get me UK citizenship and take this test. So she was basically dressing up as that person and taking their documents.
But
and
for the money it costs, just learn
the answers.
It's probably online. Surely. Hang on.
It must be. The
British citizenship questions.
It's apparently about like British monarchy and history and
I'll tell you what. Cooper.
Okay, we're gonna do this test.
Because I want to see if we'd pass for citizenship, right?
You
know what? If this is really hard, then I think that's how. And for two people who are British through and through, geezers.
Yeah, geezers. True British geezers.
This will be even funnier to show how fucking ridiculous these tests are. Okay. Which king was executed in 1649? Genuine question. Is it James I, Charles II, James VII, or Charles I?
James VII? No.
What's your
final
answer.
16 what?
1649. I'm not going to repeat myself again, sir.
James I, I reckon.
James I. Okay. And that's wrong. So you're already not on a good start. Charles I. Who built the Tower of London? Was it William the Conqueror, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth I, or Oliver Cromwell?
Can you see these answers, or are you just doing this?
I can see. I can only see it when you've submitted your answer. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
So what do you think it is then?
Fuck you.
You're doing the test as well here.
Excuse me, you're here to gain citizenship. I am a true British citizen, and I'm testing your knowledge. James Cromwell. I'm sorry, sir. James Cromwell is not an option on this. William the Conqueror, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth I, or Oliver Cromwell. I don't know who this James is. James Cromwell your contact that you take to cheat these quizzes?
I reckon it's either Lizzie or Vicky. I reckon it's Lizzie 1.
I don't think you can, don't use nicknames from monarchs, you cretin. Wrong. It's fair. I wouldn't have got that either. It was William the Conqueror.
William the Conqueror built the tower? Really?
Apparently.
1066. Damn, the building's
Which
old.
territory is not a part of Great Britain? Okay. Wales, Northern Ireland, England, or Scotland?
Northern Ireland. What?
Hang on, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, I think that's correct, although it's highlighted in red. Well done. So you've got 1 out of 3 so far.
Yeah,
I think,
cool.
to be just to give you a bit of credit, I would have complete guess for the first one, complete guess for the second one.
Yeah.
I probably would have known Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
How often are Prime Minister's questions held in Parliament? Every day, every week, every 2 weeks, or once a month? I feel bad. I don't know that.
Every 2 weeks. Complete punt.
Incorrect, actually. It's every week. That's 1 out of 4. It's not fucking good, mate. Which of the following is a famous British Paralympian? Dame Kelly Holmes, Baroness Tanny Gray Thompson, or Jane Torville?
The Dame.
Sorry, put some respect on her name. What Dame who? Sorry.
I can't
Dame
remember.
Judi Dench?
No.
It
was just I can't
Dame
remember her
Kelly
name.
Holmes, you mean?
That one.
You're correct. Well done. Where was William Shakespeare born? I know this one. Is it Manchester, Oldham, Stratford-upon-Avon, Lincolnshire?
Lincolnshire? I have no idea, actually.
Wrong. It's Stratford-upon-Avon. Did watch last week's episode of The Apprentice? Fucking
Oh my god.
Lord Sugar just started waffling about William Shakespeare for 20 minutes. Do you know the thing about The Apprentice where it's pretty clear that Lord Sugar has like a list of jokes he needs to hit in every episode, and he just sort of ticks them off as he goes along, because he's just like he's like Joe Biden at this point. So you've got 2 out of
how many do you have? Do you have to get all of them to pass?
I don't know. I'll tell you. I'll tell you after. I'll probably actually tell you if you've passed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got 2 out of 6 so far. It's quite a lot. Let's keep going. This is fun. To be fair, I'm doing it for the bit at this point, and I'm happy to keep the bit going.
Bad.
Who made the first coins to be minted in Britain? People of the Stone Age, the Anglo-Saxons, people of the Iron Age, or the Romans?
I should fucking know this. Romans, I think. Do Romans predate Anglo-Saxons? Yeah.
Wrong.
No. Yeah.
People of the Iron Age.
Fuck.
Northern Ireland has its own established church. True or false?
True? No. False.
So final answer, sir?
Final answer.
Correct.
Yes.
I think.
Because it's only the Church of England and the Vatican.
Yeah. On what day is the birth of Jesus Christ celebrated? Father's Day, Christmas Day, New Year, or Boxing Day?
Christmas.
Yay. What sort of battle was the Battle of Britton, fought between Germany and Britain in the summer of 1940? A battle in the sea?
Battle?
Air battle? Battle in the mountains? Or battle without rifles? Air battle is what you're saying.
Air battle is what I'm
Aerial
saying.
battle. You were correct. Oh my god, you're cooking now. The more you get right, the more gammon your colour, your skin turns. There are 15 national parks in England, Wales, and Scotland. What are national parks? Giant greenhouses, land formations of columns made from volcanic lava, areas of protected countryside, or medieval buildings?
Protected countryside.
Correct. Who was reigning in England when English settlers first began to colonise eastern coast of America? Queen Victoria, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, or Charles II?
Victoria.
when English settlers first began to colonize the eastern coast of America?
Yeah, is it not Queen Victoria that spearheaded the colonization of America?
If that's what your answer is, I'll go with it. It's Elizabeth I. You need to think like Alexander Hamilton time, like founding fathers was like after Britain had invaded.
I've just seen Hamilton, actually.
Have you not?
I'm going to see this, in theatre.
Get a fucking watch it on Disney Plus at least, bro.
Yeah, it's true.
It's so good. It's so good.
I just thought Vic, because I'm sure is Queen Victoria not the one that's like she's most famous
like, for.
I love how we literally had this conversation about English history and it'd be like,
did she colonize like India? But not like America. Like when they discovered America, like Chris Columbus.
Oh, because it was I'm being stupid.
As a British citizen, which of the below is one of your responsibilities? Oh, this is good. To respect and obey the law, to walk your dog only during the day, to go to church on Sunday, and to look after yourself and your family.
To abide by the law.
Yeah, respect and obey the law. That's correct, obviously. Where is Swansea located? That's mental that's a question. England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, or Wales?
England.
You are taking the piss.
No
Do you
idea.
actually not know
Genuinely.
that? Well, no, it's Wales.
Is it?
Swansea. I mean, I have family who live in Swansea.
I'm English, not Welsh, okay, George?
All right. Well, not yet.
I'm English, not British. I never claimed to be British.
Who established the Church of England? Henry VIII.
Henry VIII.
Oliver Cromwell. Winston
I know
Churchill,
that. I know that
Willem
from 6.
Orange.
I know that from 6.
Henry VIII.
Caused a commotion.
Correction.
Got a promotion.
Yeah.
Set in motion the Sea of Eve. The rules were so outdated. Us two wanted to get X-rated. That's the line from 6.
Are you sure you haven't seen Hamilton?
No, I've seen 6 though. I've seen Hamilton this year.
Okay, fair. Okay. I haven't seen that one. Scotland and Wales use a system called individual registration, where all of those entitled to vote must complete their own registration form. Is that true or false?
True.
False.
Fuck.
Which court deals with minor criminal offences in Scotland? Is it the Sheriff Court, the Magistrates Court, the Crown Court, or the Justice of the Peace Court?
Do you know this?
No, I could have a guess.
It's either Peace or Magistrates.
What are you guessing?
Magistrates. Go fucking Magistrates. The only one I've heard.
I would say Magistrates, and it was Justice of the Peace Court. Of course, it was. Which of the following records gives us information about England during the reign of William I? The Magna Carta, the Domesday Book, the Canterbury Tales, or the Kama Sutra?
Magna Carta.
That's, by the way, that's not on there. I'm being funny. The Domesday Book.
What? Oh, the Magna Carta is the fucking record. Like, it's. Oh no, that's. What?
You're not getting citizenship, mate. I hate to tell you.
Oh, I'm not British. What the fuck?
Oh, I did forget to tell you as well. If you take one of these tests officially, and you're already British, you actually revoke your right.
My passport.
Yeah, you're gonna get swatted at the end of this episode. Which of these political parties was part of the coalition government in 2010? The Green Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats. You should know that one.
How? How the fuck?
2010.
Yeah, when I was fucking 8 years old.
Brother, it was only 15 years ago.
Brother, I was 8 years old. I was fucking playing Pokemon. And
I was 9!
Montana.
I was 9 and I fucking remember it.
The fucking Labour Party.
You think the Labour Party had a coalition with the Tories?
Oh, no. What were the options?
Green Party, Labour Party, Liberal Democrat Party.
The fucking Liberal Democrats.
Correct, because it was David Cameron and Nick Clegg. Was it Nick Clegg? I think it was. Yeah, famously. Haggis is a traditional food from which
Scotland.
area? Wales, England, Northern Ireland, or Scotland? In 1913, the British government... Don't complain about this one, because you weren't even born then, mate. 1913, the British government promised home rule for Ireland. Why were any changes in Ireland delayed until 1921?
The World War.
Outbreak of the First World War, outbreak of the Second World War, because there was not a king on the British throne, or due to an outbreak of the Black Death?
The First World War.
I think you're probably right. Yeah, you are. In 1348, 1/3 of the population in England, Scotland and Wales died as a result of which disease? Measles, leprosy, smallpox, or the Black Death?
The Black Death.
Correct. Which of these documents do you need to apply for a national insurance number? A document... apply... Yeah, to apply to get a national insurance number. A document with your address on it, documents that prove you have permission to work in the UK, or a contract from your employer.
I'm going...
I don't know if I know that 100%. I don't know if I can answer that.
It's either going to be address or the right to work in the UK. But do you have to have a national insurance to have the right to work in the UK?
I think so.
Surely not.
I don't know. I don't really... I still, honestly...
But you do, obviously, to work
at the
in the
right
UK,
page of almost 24 years old, I still don't really know what the national insurance number does.
I'm going to say to work in the UK? No, address. Surely you must have to have address in the UK to have an English national insurance number.
Okay, is that your answer?
Address, yeah.
No, it's the documents that prove you have permission to work in the UK.
Fuck.
Which of the following statements is true? Elizabeth I was a Protestant, and she succeeded in finding a balance between the views of the Catholics and the more extreme Protestants. Or... Elizabeth I was a Catholic, and she succeeded in finding a balance between the views of the Catholics and the more extreme Protestants.
First one is Protestant.
Bosh.
Because her dad is the one that established the...
Thanks for taking the quiz. Let us know how you got on. I don't understand.
How many did I get right?
I don't know. Do I have to go through myself? I have to count all the fucking questions again. Brilliant. Ugh. Right, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24,
there's 24 questions.
24?
There's 24 questions in total, wasn't there?
I might have just added one by accident then. Right, well...
Have you not just counted how many questions there were, not how many I got right?
I have just counted how many questions there were. Yeah, I wanted to know how many out of it.
Oh, sorry.
You can get like a
You have to get 75%. You have to get 18 correct.
Okay, so there's... you have to get 18 correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back through them then. So you got the first one wrong. Executed. Tower of London wrong. Territory is not a part of Great Britain. You got that one right. Prime Minister's questions, you got wrong. Your favourite famous Paralympian, correct. You got where William Shakespeare was born, wrong. Coins minted, wrong. Northern Ireland has its own established church, false. You got that correct. That's 3. Christmas Day is the birthday of Jesus Christ, 4. The Battle of Britain, you got right, 5. Areas of protected countryside, 6. Reigning England settlers colonizing America, nope. Your responsibilities as a British citizen, 7 you got right now. Swansea located, wrong. Church of England, you got that one right, so that's 8. Wrong on the individual registration voting system. The Scottish court, wrong. The records of William I, wrong. The political parties coalition, you did get it right, but after some hints. 9. Traditional food haggis. 10. So you got 10 right so far. You're getting there. Why does there's an Irish rule? Yada yada. You got that one right. So that's 11. Black Death 12. National insurance number wrong. And the Elizabeth one wrong, which means you got 12 right.
50%.
You got 50%.
And I needed 18 to pass.
Most of the people who took. So this is really interesting, and I love that. This is kind of and this is sort of basically a great example of going this. You have to get a score of 18 out of 24 to pass the test. However, so you need to get 75% to win. The whole point of this, why this is a bit of a joke, is that the study basically found that most people who were UK citizens wouldn't be able to pass this test.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair enough. What sort of fucking questions are these? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand having to know
agree.
about, like, British history, but that's very silly. Like, some of these are really just pointless. Where is Swansea located? Who needs to know that? You don't need to know that. Like, I don't know. I just think it's fucking silly. But it said that apparently it put to a test of 270 people, nearly all of whom were UK citizens, to the test, and found 66.4% fell short of the required score, answering an average of 15.6 questions correctly.
I'm still below average.
You know what, though? I don't think it's a diss on you. I think, if anything, it's a diss on the awful British citizenship system, which requires people to fucking answer those daft fucking questions and get that many right just to be a citizen. Trust me, it's not even worth it. I'd rather live elsewhere.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode. You will find me next week from a house in Colombia. I will no longer be in Britain.
On house arrest, escaping the law. Coop will be bouncing from location to location over the next year.
I'll no longer be in the same place for multiple episodes.
You have a VPN.
VPN, all of that stuff. But no, thank you very much for listening and or watching this episode of Nostalgia Bit. Go and I hope you can take the British citizen test and pass if you're a British citizen. Maybe you are American or from a different country and you can pass the British citizenship test better than I can. But anyway,
where this is going, Cooper.
No idea. It's completely
maybe if you're not from England, you can take this test.
You probably end up doing better than me, but make sure to like the video if you're on YouTube and leave us a comment on whether you can pass the test. Or if you're a Game of Thrones fan, let us know what you think of House of the Dragon and all the new fucking mental information that we've been talking about today. Make sure to check out TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Leave us a hearty 5-star review on Spotify. We really, really, really do appreciate it. And we will see you and or not hear. You will hear us next week for the episode that we have planned. Ominous.
Oh dear. Well, thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.